Hello everybody, welcome. Today I want to talk about the healing of relationships, healing of problems within relationships and how to ask for that. We all have relationships that are working and they're great and make us feel happy, and then sometimes in our life we have relationships that aren't working and that makes us really unhappy. It's very difficult to heal some relationships, particularly when they're involved with people who are very stubborn and selfish, people who don't listen or who are, in your view, unreasonable. You can try and send lots of love to the situation. That's a really good thing to do. I just keep sending love to it, especially to them and to their hearts, because often when you're having trouble in a relationship and people are being difficult, it's because they're not open-hearted. So I just keep sending pink light and love to their hearts, and to keep asking that they will come from a more loving place. Usually they're not coming from a loving place. Usually they're coming from a place of power and control and punishment. And it's usually a very conditional love phase that you're going through with them. They will love you, but they will love you conditionally. As long as you do as you're told and don't rock the boat and do as they want, everything's fine. But if you don't do as you're told and you do rock the boat, everything won't be so fun. And that's what I'm really talking about today, and how to help it energetically. Talking to the human person in this sense doesn't work very well. So I suggest, I've done a podcast on talking to the soul telepathically. So I suggest you spend some time having a little chat to them and talking to them about what's going on and how you feel and how you see a solution. And I'll continue to do that while I'm trying to fix the relationship to ease it out. It's a very difficult one because you have to have the two parties willing to compromise. And if you have one party who is and one party who isn't, it's going to be difficult. If you are having these problems, I suggest also that you consider that they are coming from a different love source than you. Perhaps you are coming from conditional love, but I suspect you're probably coming from unconditional love, which is that I love you regardless, and you have an open door policy to your heart. Therefore, when you start to see the relationship where they're coming from, it's important that you understand it's different. Once you do that, it'll all make sense to you why you're having trouble with them, because they're focused in two different areas: power and control and conditional love. The other thing I think you can ask for is, from a spiritual point of view, they have their guides. You have your guides. So you ask your guides to go and talk to their guides and see if they can download some solutions for you in the other court. I've done this quite frequently when I've kind of been quite exasperated and tried all my techniques in terms of talking to them on a human level, and then I've just gone to spiritual practices. People are very stubborn often. If they think they're right, even when they're not right, they will actually stick to it and maintain their right. I've seen this happen many times. You don't really have much room to maneuver to get them to see your point of view. Sometimes they are also callous and insensitive and hard-hearted. So appealing to their emotions doesn't always work. There's two ways you can do this. You can continue to feel to their emotions, and maybe you will break through the barrier. However, I think it's possibly better to talk head-to-head with them. Just talk to them head-to-head as much as you can. On a soul level, ask the guides to talk to one another. Then ask that the Spirit and your God, how you see God, helps to heal it. I found that I've got to a few relationships which were quite untenable, and I tried many things, and I just eventually surrendered and asked God to please help. I pray for help with this, to help mend it, to help it move forward, to help to heal it. Because while it's not working, the relationship is actually ill, it's sick, and you really want it to be healed and the two hearts to be healed, because the love is still there. It's usually just withheld from one party or maybe both parties. And you might want to look at your part in this. Are you coming from conditional love and you've got all your conditions and rules and regulations and being closed-hearted, or are you trying to come from being open-hearted and loving and kind? Of course, there will be boundaries. We've all got to have boundaries to keep ourselves safe from being abused by people or hurt or chastised all the time and punished. These are not good things to be at the end of and rejected. However, within that, loving somebody, you can give them quite a lot of room to maneuver, to come back into the relationship and to heal and to mend it. Often these people will not say they're sorry. They don't know what those two words mean, I don't think. They just cannot say it. But you might find they do things. For example, they might offer to help you with something, or they send you a gift, or they say something nice to you about who you are. Remember to see this. This is their I'm sorry. They will never say I'm sorry, but this is their I'm sorry. And you need to actually see that. When you see that little movement towards mending the relationship, don't have too hard and fast rules about what they have to do before you talk to them, etc. See what they are doing and see that it's some sort of movement, because what you're doing is trying to move it energetically, because now it's energetically stuck. You're in a stalemate energetically and you want to move that. Also ask your guides to send a lot of guidance to them, to get into their ear about the relationship and how important it is and the value of it, and time is short, because that can download as well. And that's what you need to do. You need to energetically try and make it better. I believe that all relationships can be healed on all levels as long as we can come from unconditional love, throw away the power and control stuff and the conditional love, and actually forgive them. Forgiving people is quite difficult. Remember, we're not forgiving them in the sense that we're saying it's all right. We're just forgiving how they did it or what they said. We all act badly at times. We're all flawed beings and look back and think we could have done that better. And we all have our own personalities, which sometimes get in the way of negotiation. If we're a person who's quite controlling, inherited the control gene, some people have. And then I think you can hopefully try and energetically move and shift the problems that you have in the relationship. Sometimes going to talk to a counsellor or therapist is good because they act as a mediator. But I found that often when you're in these situations, one of the groups doesn't listen, like they won't listen, and I always can get the idea of who's listening and who's not listening, and that will actually impede the flow on a human level. However, if you talk to them telepathically, as we've spoken, ask their guides to talk to their guides, ask the guides to download, ask God, as you see God, to heal the relationship. And then, when you see the little snippets of movement, you praise it. Do not then talk about the past, the grudges, thresh it all out again. It's said that it's good to speak about these things and thrash them all out, but unfortunately people do this in a place of anger and hurt. And so when they're thrashing it all out and coming out from their liver, they're not coming from their heart, and it doesn't come out very well. Instead of talking about how they feel, I felt upset, I was hurt, they're talking about how you did this and you did that and you did this, and it becomes very accusing, and so you'll end up having this fight again, almost another war has been initiated because of the fact you're both speaking to each other. Sometimes we have to let the grudges go. It's important to let it go. Nobody acted perhaps as you hoped, and some people probably acted quite badly. And that's the other thing, that sometimes people aren't emotionally mature. They still act like a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old, actually haven't really grown up. And you might need to take that into account. Not everyone who's walking around in their 45-year-old suit is 45 emotionally. Sometimes they're still 6. And if you have an understanding of how old they are, this is really going to help you, because you're going to think to yourself, well, I'm actually dealing with a 6-year-old here emotionally. Please don't say that to them. I'm hoping that you can heal some of the relationships that aren't working. Use these energetic measures as well. Of course, there's always the human stuff. A card of love with no strings attached, telling the person you love them, or text telling the person that you love them, or an email telling the person that you love them without any condemnation or bringing up the past and all the things that went wrong. Just, I love you very much, will do a lot on a human level to soften this, and also to try and spend some time with them, because the more time you actually spend communicating, the barriers tend to break down a little bit. I'm hoping that things, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do have some relationship problems like everyone. I've got them going right now too. So, I mean, we're just human and we're trying to do the best down here, but don't forget to ask Spirit to help, because they actually will give you a lot of comfort and guidance. The other thing is that Spirit will often tell you when to be quiet and when to talk. Often I've wanted to talk, I wanted to send the text, I wanted to send the email, and I wanted to tell you how I felt, and I just got told in my head, wait, because the timing was wrong. It wasn't going to be received well. They weren't in that space. And that's the other thing. Energetically, sometimes the gateway for reconciliation isn't quite open enough, and other times it is. And you need to get a sense of that from a soul point of view. Is this a good time? Are they going to really listen to it? Are they still too angry and hurt and upset, or whatever the things are, indignant about what happened? Then that's probably not the best time to go, and wait until the emotions quieten down and some time has elapsed. Relationships make or break our life. They make us happy and they make us very unhappy. And so I think it's really important to keep working at it. If you can't do it on a human level because you're estranged from the person, just keep doing it on the spiritual level, on the soul level, and keep doing your energy work with them. Every night I send these people that I've had to work with love and healing every single night, and I send love to their hearts, to open their hearts up to love. And even people who've died, I've had a few people who've died who were very difficult people, and I still send love and healing to them even though they've crossed, because I think they need love and healing, because often people who are damaged emotionally actually do emotional damage to others. Damage creates damage. I've always thought that. So the more we send healing and light to these people, the less damage there will be, hopefully. I'm sending you lots of love and light, and I'm hoping that some of this podcast will help you in your life with the difficult relationships that I know that we're all struggling with.